Shanique Yates. I am a journalist covering all things entertainment over at Blavity, all the places. And so we have a very, very exciting conversation ahead with the cast of BMF. And so welcome to Family Legacy Action BMF here at the BET Experience. So Season 4 is full of some drama, y'all, and it just kicked off last night. But before I bring out the guests, let's take a quick peek at what lies ahead this season. Drama is high this season, y'all, but let's welcome to the stage our dynamic BMF cast, starting with showrunner Heather Zuhlke, followed by Da Vinci or Mr. Southwest himself. And we also have Michole Briana White, who portrays matriarch Lucille Fittery. And last but certainly not least, we have Mr. Russell Hornsby, aka Yes, how are y'all hearts today, y'all? How y'all feeling?
Great, blessed.
Yes. I'm so excited to chat with y'all because today we're going to be showing this amazing audience some exclusive clips from the new season, which just kicked off yesterday. And so let's kick off the conversation with this clip.
Welcome home, Mitch. Welcome home, Mitch. It's been a minute.
Who invited you?
This is me and Aisha.
You ain't supposed to be here, dog.
Oh, come on now. Hi, beautiful. How are you? Welcome, Aisha. I'm Lucille.
I've heard so much about you, Miss Lucille. You've been like a second mother to Brian.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
V's next surgery is coming up and had to come stop by and give Nicole a little something. Family, right?
That's cool, I'll take it. Thank you. Let's go, Nicole.
Listen, don't be a stranger, sweetie. Thank you so much for the gift. I appreciate it, okay?
All right, so let's give it up for that. So one of my favorite rappers once said, "No one wins when the family feuds," and that is proof of it. So I'm gonna actually start with you, Da Vinci, because we see that rift form between Terry and Meech a lot in this season, and the tension really starts to build with him reconnecting with B. Mickey. What was your approach to portraying that shift, especially as Terry starts questioning who he really is?
So what was, I'm sorry, you're saying?
Yeah, what was your approach to carrying out just that anger and that resentment that we're seeing toward Meech? Yes.
Yeah, I think,
Hello, testing. That's good. I'm just gonna hold it like this. I feel like, at first, Terry, he's really mad. Like, it hit a sore spot because Meech is always putting other people before him, and he hates that feeling a lot. But then, I think after a while, Terry started thinking like, hold on, I could play chess. I could use B. Mickey as a pawn in my game. So I think it's almost like a blessing in disguise in a way. But it definitely ruffles his feathers. And he's like, this is why I don't like you, because you're always putting other people before me and not trusting my judgment and certain things. So he didn't like that.
Yeah, and speaking of putting other people, that's like a common theme in the Flannery family.
Yeah.
Because for you, Russell, we see Charles really call that out in a conversation he has with Lucille about her putting the church before the family, thinking about the church before the family. There's also this scene with B. Mickey, and we see him coming back. He's been like a brother to the brothers. Tell me about just the nuance of family rifts playing out in public and how that will evolve this season.
Well, I think what we notice about what happens in the season is that everybody is sort of going on their own road. Everybody is following, going in the direction that their blood beats. And so I think that when Charles speaks about Lucille putting the church before him, he's saying that she's being selfish, but he's not really realizing with the selfish nature that he led with prior to now. The relationship he had with Maybelline. I mean, Mabel. Why can't it be true? And that realizing that he put himself before the family, that he put himself before Lucille. And so all she's saying is basically turnabout is fair play. But because he doesn't realize the error of his ways, he's just pointing the finger at her and not realizing it should be pointed back at him. And he should look at himself in the mirror and realize what he has done that caused this rift in this family dynamic. And I think that other than just the boys doing what they have done, but Charles has really been the head of that snake, you know, if you will, that caused Lucille, that really caused this rift and this separation to happen. So, you know, we're just finding out that we all got a lot of growing up to do.
Yeah.
Thank you for owning that.
Well, you know, that's him, not me.
And Russell, you also directed episode 2.
Yes.
So what was that like, being behind the camera and in front of the camera?
First of all, it's a blessing. I mean, I have to thank, you know, 50, Randy and Heather, just for giving me the opportunity, you know, in season 3, and then coming back in season 4, just getting the opportunity to really, I think, deepen the storytelling, but also deepening the emotional connections with the characters. You know, we're taking just a deeper dive into who these people are and the stories that they're telling. And so, you know, being an actor on the show, but then the opportunity to get a director, you really have just a front row seat, you know, with all these characters. So I think there was opportunity to really talk to Michole about where the character can go, what the journey can look like, talk to Da Vinci and talk to Misha, some other actors, just to say, there's some grace notes, there's some minutia here, there's a way that we can deepen the well here. You know, you have a brilliant script, you know, that kind of helps you do that. And so that's just really the joy of being able to direct, is really help the actors tell the story and help us all just get better as artists.
Yeah, and can we make some noise for him directing episode 2? Yeah. And then for you, Michole, Lucille seems to be that mediator when it comes to B. Mickey and the rift that he has with the Flannery boys. I actually feel like both Charles and Lucille, they handle it with such grace and still letting them know that he's like a son to them. When we think about familial relationships that play out this season, what can we expect from Lucille, and what would you like fans to take away from her?
From Lucille this season, like Russell said, she's stepping into her own individuality and becoming the pastor, and all of this is her finding herself and having a new moment to do that. She gets a little out of pocket this season as she tries to find herself, and you know, at first actually playing that was really uncomfortable for me, because I had this idea of Lucille being this kind of, you know, kind of perfect together, perfect for lack of a better word, but, you know, together human being. And really her flaws show up this season a lot more, and it was uncomfortable to play at first, but then it became one of the most fun seasons I had, actually, to really lean into her flaws. And I guess what I would hope that people would take away is allowing yourself the opportunity to really be present with where you are on the journey, and it's all part of the process to you really finding your true self.
Yeah, I love that. And y'all haven't seen it yet, but when she went to Atlanta, that was a bad outfit she had on coming downstairs. She stayed downstairs, okay? It was really nice. And then for you, Heather, as the showrunner and the writer for this episode, what was going through your mind in writing the story of bringing back a character that's as complex as B. Mickey?
I think, first of all, we do it for you, like getting to see all of your beautiful faces here. When we're in the room, we're always like, what do the fans want to see? How can we honor our audience and the stories? And we just knew that, like, oh, if we bring B. Mickey back, people are going to love that. There's going to be memes, there's going to be reenactments. We have such an amazing fan base. And we knew it would cause great conflict. So our theme this year is the enemy within, too. And so that's not just physical presence of the enemy within, but what Russ was talking about, looking at yourself in the mirror. There's an enemy within all of us that causes us to act out in ways that will have big consequences this season. So you'll see all of that unfold as well.
Yeah, I love that. And what I also love about BMF is that this is one, if not only, the only show where we, like Big Meech and Southwest T are still with us. And they actually have been released from incarceration. So for you, Da Vinci, what has that been like, portraying like a character that's here? Have you been able to call up Southwest T and say, hey, I'm thinking like, how should I bring this to the screen? Or have you gotten any feedback from him?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually do call him a good amount of times. I'm fortunate enough, not only do we have a great cast, you know, we have great showrunners, we have great producers, we have great mentors on set, like shout out to Russell, shout out to Michole, Steve Harris, Wood Harris when he was there. And, but I definitely use that lifeline to Terry Flannery, and I abuse it. So I pick his brain to try to get into his psychology. And I think after the success of season 1, he told me, he was like, yo, the way you portrayed my character was so great, like I have no notes. And he was like, and then he was like, when people see you now, they see me, and you're representing me on and off screen in a way that I wish I was able to present, you know? And when he said that to me, that was like an Emmy, you know what I'm saying? It's very seldom that you get to play a character. No, seriously, no, thank you, I appreciate that. And it's very seldom that you get to play a character and it's a true story and the person's still alive and still relatively young. So him saying, and he's a man, so we could be very critical as men. So to watch another man play you and in a certain way, you know, get fame off of playing you, some people that might not sit well. So he's a very humble individual, and you know, he gave me my flowers, and I try to reciprocate it by just honoring the character and just doing right by portraying him. Because now, for the remainder of history, as long as our history exists, it's like when people think of these brothers, they're gonna see me and not them. So I try to make sure I'm a great representation for them on and off screen, and you know, and just represent the studio well as well. So yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I love that, and I love that speaks to the authenticity of the show.
Yeah.
And speaking of authenticity, what I love about this season is that we shift gears into a whole new world as BMF dives into the music industry. Terry and Meech are on the set of a music video, wide-eyed and taking in the possibilities. The fashion's on point, the energy is high, and the music is all original. Let's roll the next clip. And the music this season, hats off to 50 Cent because he does a great job of infusing original music into his shows, which I think is so beautiful. So Russell, I want to start with you because we know that Charles has a love of music. Do you think that this influenced the Flannery brothers and their interest in the industry, or if it was another one of their just business plays?
Oh no, I mean, I definitely think that what you see is that they were really, you know, they come from a nuclear family, you know, so they did go to church on Sundays, you know, Charles did play, you know, in the church band and in the choir and everything like that, and so they did get an influence from it, and what you're really showing is how well-rounded these kids actually are, and how they were, and the great influence that both Charles and Lucille had in their lives, you know, and I think that's all these dynamics are now coming into play. And we hear Meech in earlier seasons talk about the influence that music had in their lives. You know, you wake up Saturday morning, you cleaning the house. Everybody knows that. You know, parents, you know, old school Gen X. You know what I mean? You know, you wake up, turn that radio on, the record player, and you know, I grew up in Oakland, KBLX, the Soft and Warm, the Quiet Storm. You know what I mean? And that's all. Yeah, there you go. And then that's what takes you, but also, you know, music, that expresses and tells a story of who we are. That gives us our sense of history. It gives us our sense of duty and purpose. and in it's our message of our culture, you know, and I think that's what we're bringing to season 4, and that's a reflective of who Terry and, you know, and Meech are.
Yeah, and I was waiting for this personally in the story of BMF, the music part, because I can remember, you know, back in my day, being in the clubs, standing on couches, and Jeezy had in a song where he was like, "Free Meech," and I didn't really know who Meech was, for real, but I was yelling, "Free him." And so I am just so excited to get to this portion. And Da Vinci, for you, we see like Terry is super in awe of this world in watching these episodes. It's glitzy, it's fast paced, and it's full of potential. What do you imagine is going through his mind in the moment of the clip that we watch? And how would you say it shapes the way he sees their game evolving?
The real Terry Flutter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like Terry's probably why, because he was always so low key. He's probably like, damn, why they showing this on the TV? Because I feel like he always wanted his things to be kept secret, you know. But I think, you know, after him, you know, serving the time and like, I mean, those brothers, their reality is just crazy. They served decades in prison, and now their story is being told. And I could only imagine he's probably like, what the hell? First of all, you know what I'm saying? That is such a phenomena that like most human beings will never go through that experience. You know, like they stood in that courtroom and heard that sentencing, and then now we're telling their story. I'm sure he feels like, I don't even think he could process how he feels. And I don't even think I can do justice by trying to process how he feels. If I'm being honest, because sometimes I think about that story and I'm just like, I'm scratching my head, I'm like, whoa, this is so wild. You know, to see what they were doing, played out, why they got arrested, you know, but I'm sure, I think he's excited, I think he's happy how Heather and Brandy and all the other producers and the network is portraying their story, because they're trying to show the humanity of the brothers. So oftentimes when you're, you know, part of organized crime and people are calling you a criminal, they try to take the humanity out of it. But I think you get to see that these brothers had a heart, and it's kind of the world around them influenced them. And I think if, you know, they say nature forces upon the minds of men the influences of their environment, they were just products of their environment. Had they had the same opportunity as the Wright brothers or Steve Jobs, Apple or airplanes could have been them. You know what I'm saying? Who knows? They could have created Microsoft. They could have created, I mean, to have that type of unity, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, shout out to those brothers. To have that type of unity and know that them balls, excuse my language, they were courageous. Like, you dealing with street dudes with no morals. They'll kill you, man. If you could go and do that, or you could build a computer if you had access to it. You know, if you wasn't trying to feed your stomach every day, you was trying to put shoes on your feet, if you wasn't distracted by the poverty-stricken areas, who knew what you could have become? So I think they're just proud that their humanity is shown, because oftentimes they get looked at as these monsters, you know, to where they were just people like us.
Yeah, and they were so ahead of their time. Even in the way that we hear them talk about the music industry in this season and the exploitation and money being taken from the artists, I think that's so cool. And as I was mentioning before, their legacy was carried on. Even though they were locked up, their legacy was carried on through music. There are too many rappers to name that have dropped BMF or Big Meech or whatever in their songs, and I think that's so cool. And one thing that I thought was cool when I was doing my research was that they had one sole artist, and his name was Blue Da Vinci. And I'm like, is that like, I mean, it's not like Da Vinci, but it's like close to it. And I'm like, you know, it's just so cool.
That was a crazy coincidence.
Yeah.
And I have no affiliation with Blue Da Vinci. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah.
I happen to like the color blue.
Yeah.
I like the color blue. But me and Blue Da Vinci are two different individuals. And I'm only saying that because I think he could be in some.
Yeah.
So I don't want, and the brothers are out right now. I don't want them to think me and the same person. But I'm sure he's a great guy.
Absolutely. And Heather, I want to talk to you about the fashion in this season. Shout out to Kia Bounds, the costume designer. Let's make some noise for her. How do you and your team infuse real life events, but also go about making history enjoyable for television? And how do you hope that this is like just a living history lesson for those that are watching the show?
Yeah, so Kia does a fantastic job. Everyone is still alive, so we have a lot of photos of what they really wore to Nicole's graduation. That outfit was based off the real Miss Lucille's, that blue suit, right? So the fact that we have access to everyone, Big Meech, T, they've all been so supportive and generous and sharing their stories. And our job is, everybody knows how this story ends, right? It's a little bit like Titanic.
Yeah.
The boys are headed for an iceberg, right? And so it's our job as storytellers just to tell the most interesting way to get there and to throw as many obstacles in the way. Now, a lot of this shit you really can't make up. You hear the stories. The Mexico storyline, a lot of that happened. They went on the run. There were all these great details, and then we got to add our twist to it too, because we want you to come back every week. Right. So, but yeah, we have a great writer's room consultant, LaToya Mapp, who was there, who went through all of it. So we hear the real thing, and then we make it messy, and always infuse as much family as we can into it, because these scenes with the family, that's the most relatable thing. Not everyone can relate to being a drug kingpin, but everyone can relate to having dysfunction in their families. Yeah. So my favorite scenes are with this group of people and around the dining room table, you know?
Yeah, that's so real. Because even in watching, I'm like, my dad would say something like that, like with Charles and, just doing all the things. And then I have a sister and I have a brother, and I think about how our bond got stronger as adults versus being kids in the house. And I was like, dang, I love these little people. They're actually really cool. And so up next, we get to see a clip that offers a peek into the systemic challenges that Black families during this time period, and discuss a complicated living situation post-divorce for Charles and Lucille. Let's take a look.
I'm just trying to find my sermon notes. Have you seen them?
But got some good news. Got a call from Chuck Campbell. Tour's back on.
Oh, that's good. Well, when do you leave?
2 months. They're still working out some booking issues. Judging by your reaction, you would hope to assume.
No, I've been trying to apply for welfare, and you know how strict they can be. So.
I thought you would be happy for me. But all you care about is getting me out of the house so you can get some free money. Don't worry, Lucille. I'll be out of your hair soon enough.
Free money. In this economy, I need some free money.
It's gonna get juicy.
Yeah.
Juicy.
And in this scene, I think it's so interesting because I feel like some of y'all can be honest. When you break up with somebody and y'all live together, you're still living together. Like before you separate, because rent is real, the rent prices are high. So sometimes you might have to sleep on the couch while one gets the bedroom, and we see that played out with Lucille and Charles. So for you, Michole, in this scene, Lucille comes off a bit cold, to say the least.
Wait, is my mic on?
Yeah.
Okay. You see how he turned the tables on me, making it seem like I'm all selfish? No, sir.
But she also talks to us about her story arc over the past 3 seasons. So, talk to us about her story arc over the past 3 seasons and why she is so hell-bent on Charles leaving.
Well, over the past 3 seasons, they started out, they love each other dearly, and that will never change, no matter what difficulties that they go through. And in the first season, Lucille was more a little submissive, actually, you know, and the second season, you know, he went off and went with Mabel. Like, what?
Yeah.
Which caused a problem. So that changed everything. And then, you know,
Trying to be a cookie monster.
That was really disappointing.
yeah,
That really hurt my heart.
whatever, child, whatever. Ain't nobody got time for that. So Lucille is trying to find her way, and at this point, you know, she spent so much time giving to everyone in the family, and now it's like, whoa, everybody's gone and moving on with their things, and it's like, well, wait, what about me, and who am I? And it's like the first time she gets to really look at herself and have her own issues for a minute, and she's just trying to find her way, and she's also getting a little tired of being broke, and he ain't got no job. I mean,
Yeah.
she love him though, you know, but she's working hard and doing everything, and so, you know, she's not just being selfish, but I think she just, for once in her life, she's finally going, I would like a little something for myself. Like, wait a minute, what about me? What if I want a pair of shoes, or I just want to be cute for a minute, or I just want some me time? Like, you know, he got to go off and be with some other woman and play his guitar and out of town and stuff and do all of this and that while I'm still here working at Wendy's. What? No. You know, it's time for a little change. So,
Absolutely.
Right.
I feel her frustration. Yeah. Let's make some noise. And with this clip in particular, there's nothing, I was a little triggered because there's nothing worse than telling somebody your good news and being hit with like, oh, that's cute. You know, that's what Lucille was doing. She was like, oh, I mean, rightfully so.
Right. I mean, it's all this stuff that's behind that. It's like, you know, that's just the moment that you see, but you know.
Yeah.
But also I think, like, you know, again, like for Charles, it's his narrow focus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He is selfish in his own right.
There you
know
go.
what I mean?
There you go.
No, but you know what I mean? Like, you can see it. But it's like, you know, realizing that, you know, not realizing that there's so much dysfunction that's happening around him, and that he's in a lot of ways the causative of some of that has happened between the two of them, and just looking at what is going on with him, you know, and not able to make heads or tails of all that's happening. And so it is selfish to come in and say, hey, I'm getting ready to do all this, but there's still things that need to be happening. The house is not a home, you know, and that's primarily his fault.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's a, you know,
Yeah.
ties to, but you know.
And we're gonna, I don't wanna spoil anything for y'all, cause y'all need to watch Fridays on Starz. But you guys have some really real scenes, especially when it comes to just authentic conversations about, hey, I wanna take somebody else on a date. Hey, I wanna do this and that, like, that's real. So again, I won't give too much away, but Heather, I wanted to ask you to talk about the writing process for including this scene about the free money in BMF and how it really speaks to what families during this time are going through.
Yeah, so, you know, Michigan had the toughest drug laws in the country, the 650 lifer law, and it really tore Black families apart. Fathers were being sent away, so this is such an important storyline. And just with our writing staff, we all infuse our own experiences that we bring to the table. And the Flannerys, the parents, were just surviving. And like Michole said, it's like, it's time to thrive a little bit too. So we wanted to incorporate that, and they did just such a phenomenal job in the performance, because they were both right in the scene too. Some people root for Charles in that scene, and some people root for Lucille, and that's what we always have, that dialogue going.
And before we wrap, I want to start with you, Russell. Can you maybe talk about what would Charles say to his season 1 character versus who he is in season 4? And we'll go down the line, and that question is for all of you.
You mean what would the season 1 Charles say?
Yeah, to season 4, yeah.
Yeah, okay. You know, in a lot of respects, I think he would humbly say that you need to humble yourself, and one needs to grow. For everybody, in this time, life has been no crystal stair, and you're not the only one suffering. And so you need to take a look around and I think he'd be more generous with yourself, and more loving and more caring. I think that really what happened was that all that was happening with the boys and the money and aspects of emasculation that began to happen to Charles, he took that out on the only person who really loved him, and that was Lucille, because he couldn't properly say, again, we got to look at that time. We can't take a 2025 lens and put it in 1980 and 1990 and say do this and do that and say this and say that, because that just didn't exist. And so at that time, that man, these people didn't have the tools, they didn't have the vocabulary with which to say, I need help. They didn't have the vocabulary with which to say, I am hurting, that I need to be held, that I need love. They didn't have that. That wasn't there, because all you're doing is surviving. And so, I think that he would just tell, season 4 Charles, we need to grow up, you need to humble yourself, and you need to just continue to reach out to those that love you. And this is the main one right here.
Makes me want to say something nice to you. I just want to say in response to that, throughout the seasons too, it takes 2 to tango. And so everything wasn't all Charles's fault, even though I think that sometimes. But yeah, I think that there are times that Lucille could have, been more attentive to and tried to ask what he needed, but it was difficult because the struggle is real, and she's working so much and so hard that she was just exhausted. And so it's really unfortunate that she wasn't able to be as present for him and fulfill his needs like he really wanted. And so I think that that's both of them. I think a little bit.
And just adding on to that, I think that the issue that Charles and Lucille had mutually is that they didn't realize that they essentially, the boys were put before each other.
Right.
And you know what I mean? I think that became the issue. It was like, you know what I mean? It was like it was like these boys are doing this, but it should be about what we need,
right?
For each other.
And also we're young parents, so it's like we're barely in our 20s and having these kids and raising them. So it's like that part of our lives is over in a sense, just to really care for our family. So it's like, then you're really kind of starving in a way to have a moment for yourself. And that just gets hard and challenging within the relationship. But what I would say maybe to Lucille from season 4 to season 1 is that it is okay to be imperfect. And you might not always make the mark all the time, and to still meet yourself with love and compassion and forgiveness, and allow yourself to make mistakes, because that's the only way we can find our way. It's like, thank God for the wall, because now I know that I need to go in a different direction, and that's okay. All right there, baby.
That scene that you put up there, I know I'm going back, but that is a really deep scene. Because that scene, I just wanted to say one thing about it. It's that there's an African proverb that says, a fight between two grasshoppers bring joy to the crow. And I think while they're so consumed by their own problems, there was a system that's being put in place to destroy the family nucleus in the black household. And that was genius, it was successful, you know what I'm saying? So while she's like, you need to get your ass out of here and I want this money, and then there wasn't enough opportunities for black men strategically. You know, the 12 years following after the Reconstruction in America, we were really doing really well. We were outpacing, you know, a lot of groups economically, but then what ended up happening there is like, you know, let's create these things, and you watch that successfully being displayed, because then what's happening is that mama starts raising our sisters to think in a certain way. You don't need this. Plus you get government assistance when you don't have this, which is really destroying us. Because I feel like African Americans are probably the only black people that we don't have the same respect for the family nucleus the way Caribbeans do, the way Africans do. And that was strategically created in this culture. You know what I'm saying? That's why growing up, my parents would always say, don't be like the black Americans. I'm like, Ma, if we get pulled over, I look just like them. I'm sorry, like I gotta like talk to them. Like it's not, but it's only because certain family values been destroyed, but it was destroyed by two grasshoppers arguing, and the crow's like, all right, one's dead now, I'm gonna eat them both. You know what I'm saying? So I think that was just beautifully displayed, and it like really made me like, it got me. And I appreciate that. It was deep. Thank you, appreciate that. But thank you, sir. But if I had to tell season 4 character, if I had to tell my season 1 character something, it's like, I mean, I don't know, because he knows he's going to jail. We all know the story. So I'd be like, have more fun, nigga. I don't know. I'm like, why you gotta be so uptight? Like, just have fun. Like, throw some money. Meech probably got it figured out. Like, you might as well just enjoy your downfall, because at a certain point, come on, they were caught. They were chartering planes with like 300 of them on a plane and bringing zoo animals, and they never had a job on paper. You know what I'm saying? At this point, I feel like Terry should have just party more, because I'm scared. You know, that's probably I would say, like, don't be so uptight, man. Just have more fun. You know?
Well, thank you guys for this amazing conversation. Let's give it up for these. And don't forget to watch BMF Fridays on Starz. Thank you all.
I'll catch y'all.
Thank you.